Hey guys, I'm Tom the Tech Chap, and this is my biggest battery test ever. I've got every single iPhone 12 and also every Galaxy S21, including both the Snapdragon and the Exynos models of the Ultra, plus the iPhone 11 Pro Max and the Note 20 Ultra and the S20 Ultra. To keep things fair, I'm matching the brightness to 150 nits across all the phones. And if I bring up the information here, you can see I've had to shorten some of the names because cramming in 11 phones into a video is a bit of a challenge. But you can see all the battery sizes, what chips they're running, and also you can see every Samsung is set to 120 Hz at Full HD, which is how they are out of the box. This is the default setting, and so I think how most people will be using it. And after our first hour of YouTube, well, on the left-hand side, the iPhone 12 mini is in last place at 86%, with the 11 Pro Max taking the lead with 96 remaining. Moving on to a bit of Instagram, and here we've got, well, it seems 11 super safs, which is a bit creepy actually, but I'm gonna just be refreshing and using Instagram, babysitting these phones for an hour of social media. As we go through this test, keep an eye out for the two S21 Ultras because I will be doing a full Snapdragon versus Exynos video as well, but I am curious to see how they compare when it comes to battery life. On to the first gaming test, and this is Armour Mobile Ops, which is quite a demanding game, and it does support up to 120 Hz, which may have a small impact on the battery on the Samsung phones, but again, this is how the phones are set out of the box, and how I think most people will be using them. And then following half an hour 4K video recording, we're now 3 hours 30 into this test, and in Geekbench 5, you can see how all the phones stack up, with the iPhones generally coming out on top, and the S20 Ultra with the Exynos 990 on the far right coming in last place. What's really interesting to me is the size of the batteries actually. If you look at the specs, the iPhones generally have much smaller batteries than the Galaxy phones, so without a doubt, Apple's bang for buck when it comes to battery, or should I say bang for battery, is much better than any other Android phone. 5.5 hours in now and going to our second gaming test. This time we've got Company of Heroes, and you can see we've got a couple of phones in the dangerous orange territory. Pretty much everything else is in the yellow category, except for the 11 Pro Max, which still has over 50% of its battery. But then, after almost a full hour of gaming at 6 hours 29, the 12 mini is out of the race, which is not that surprising really since it has the smallest battery, although it does also have the smallest screen. So 1 down, 10 to go, but there's a few of them that aren't far behind. If we go back to our video test, and then about 25 minutes later, the Galaxy S20 Ultra gives up, which considering it has the joint biggest battery on test, coming in second from last place, pretty disappointing, and I think a lot of that comes down to the inefficient, pretty terrible Exynos 990 chip that we've got inside here. Carrying on with our camera test, but it's only 5 minutes later that the Galaxy S21 also gives up, so not far behind the S20 Ultra, but considering this has a much smaller 4000 mAh battery, yet outlasted the S20 Ultra, I think goes some way to show just how much more efficient the new Exynos 2100 chip is in here. Alright, back to YouTube for an hour, just going through my reviews playlist, just trying to boost my views wherever possible. But then at the 7 hour 29 mark, so actually a full hour after the iPhone 12 mini, we have the iPhone 12 Pro. And this has actually been neck and neck with the standard 12 throughout, so I think depending on your use, this could go either way. They have the same size battery. But then just when I thought the iPhone 12 would be next, actually it's the Note 20 Ultra that gives up. This is the Snapdragon X65 model with a 4500 mAh battery, and it gives up just a minute after the iPhone 12 Pro, so there's not really much in it there. At this point, it feels like they're dropping like flies because just 7 minutes later, the iPhone 12 gives up. So just 8 minutes after the 12 Pro, although in my experience, they really are neck and neck generally. 6 phones down, 5 remaining, and it's a bit of a close race between the ones in the middle, but then if we take stock at the 8 hour mark, so this is pretty impressive for all of them actually, but the S21 Plus and the S21 Ultra Exynos are neck and neck for going next, with the iPhone 11 Pro Max on the far left, still not quite in that dangerous red zone. Just over half an hour later though, and it's time for the S21 Plus, which lasted over an hour and a half longer than the standard S21. So if battery life is important to you, I think the jump to the Plus model is definitely worth it. Switching back to our first gaming test, and the S21 Ultra is on 3%, but it does last another half an hour until it finally kicks the bucket at an impressive 9 hours and 4 minutes, leaving the Snapdragon version with 7% remaining, and just 1 point down compared to the 12 Pro Max. It actually goes on for another 22 minutes of this intensive gaming test before it finally runs out of juice at 9 hours 26. So it's not a night and day difference between the Exynos and the Snapdragon, but unfortunately there is still a difference, and you're getting a better battery with the Snapdragon model. which means it's now a 2-horse race between the two iPhone Pro Maxes, and it's another half an hour until the Pro Max finally calls it a day at 9 hours and 51. So between all the latest models, the 12 Pro Max wins, but it's actually beaten by the iPhone 11 Pro Max, which does have a slightly bigger battery, clocking in at a staggering 10 hours and 2 minutes. But as you can see from that clock, this was a very long video to make, and I had to babysit them throughout because I wanted to make sure this was as fair and accurate as possible. In fact, I'll be honest with you, I ran this twice. The entire previous day I did the exact same test, but I had a few anomalies, some brightness issues, so I thought that's not good enough. I want to do it all again. But hopefully you guys found this helpful, and I think my big takeaways were just how much of an improvement the S21 Plus is over the standard S21, and actually similarly the iPhone 12 and 12 Pro coming from the Mini. And between the two S21 Ultras with the different chips inside, it is still a shame that we're seeing any difference at all because these should be the same phone, but during the test we were seeing up to 6 or 7 percentage points different between the two models. But I think the award for the biggest disappointment goes to the S20 Ultra. With that size battery, it should have done a lot better, but I think that Exynos chip is holding it back. But make sure you are subscribed and stay tuned for my full Snapdragon versus Exynos video, and if you've got any questions at all or feedback, do let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching guys, and I'll catch you next time right here on the Tech Chat.